Chapter 9. Modern Christianity. Unfortunately, the huge body of Christianity today has little or no resemblance to the Christianity that Christ originated. The thousands of factions now represent a mass of confusion and dissension that could lead no one into a straight and narrow pathway to heaven. After nearly 2,000 years of manhandling, Christianity has become a vast array of interpretations, philosophies, and abstract theories. Every avenue of worldly belief is incorporated into today's Christianity. The Christians have lost the spirit of Christianity. The heathen nations frown upon the Christians because of all their centuries of war-making against non-Christians and Christians alike. Unholy Christianity resembles the Roman entertainments, rather than a reflection of Christ. Those modern ministers tried to convert Joseph Smith and other Mormon leaders with tar and feathers, beatings, robberies, and murders. Why were the Mormons so slow to understand how wonderful Christianity had become? Mormon losses were in the millions of dollars, and that was when $1 million was $1 million. These were sacrifices on the altar of those counterfeit Christians who were practicing their religion and preaching the gospel of crippled Christianity. It has always been religionists who thirsted for the blood of the prophets, and they always make their God responsible for such deeds. It was these barbaric Christians who put Joseph Smith and others into prisons and dungeons, and who made an extermination order upon the Mormons. They thought that would surely open their eyes to how wonderful Christianity was. Finally, their Christian principles dictated the killing of Joseph and Hyrum Smith and drove the Mormons out of the United States. This same spirit was demonstrated in Ohio, Missouri, and Illinois, where the Christians burned Mormon crops and homes, and killed hundreds of Mormon people. They wanted the Mormons to join their ranks singing "Onward Christian Soldiers." In a day when Christians acclaimed civil rights, they administered civil wrongs, and all that in the holy name of Christianity. But into this mass of confusion and apostasy, God had sufficient mercy to send a prophet to help the wandering sheep. But the new wine wouldn't adapt to their old rotten bottles. They were happy with their ethereal idols and their man-made churches. There isn't any more room for Christ in the churches of today than there was for him at the inn just before he was born. A true prophet of God has no more respect today than he did anciently. Most churches today are break-offs from other break-offs. As they break away, they change their name, then they change their doctrines. Further and further they drive themselves into the wilderness. The prophet Joseph Smith described this condition. The old Catholic Church traditions are worth more than all you have said. Here is a principle of logic that most men have no more sense than to adopt. I will illustrate it by an old apple tree. Here jumps off a branch and says, "I am the true tree, and you are corrupt." If the whole tree is corrupt, are not its branches corrupt? If the Catholic religion is a false religion, how can any true religion come out of it? If the Catholic Church is bad, how can any good thing come out of it? The character of the old churches have always been slandered by all apostates since the world began. TPJS, page 375. History has shown that after a few centuries, the Catholic Church became greatly changed from what it originally was. The organization, the doctrines, and the rituals became modified, other teachings were incorporated, and the officers adopted new functions and were called by different names. Then as apostates broke away, they too renamed and remodeled their new churches and new religions. If one should go to the auto races, he would see different cars, some chopped down, remodeled, and rebuilt. There are some weird ones, with huge rear wheels and long front ends. Some were built for long continuous racing, and others for shorter runs. They all appear to be funny cars, but all have been built for speed. The many Christian religions today are also remodeled, chopped down, and built for speedy growth and speedy money making. They should be called funny religions. Even though funny cars are different in style, they all have some of the same basic characteristics: wheels, motor, transmission, etc. Though each religion differs from the other, they still contain some truths. Today 1,000 blind guides each have a part of Christianity and teach it as the entire gospel. They are somewhat like blind men from Indostan, described in the following poem. The Blind Man and the Elephant. A Hindu Fable. By John Godfrey Saxe. It was 6 men of Indostan, to learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. The first approached the elephant, and happening to fall against his broad and sturdy side, at once began to bawl, "God bless me, but the elephant is very like a wall." The second, feeling of the tusk, cried, "Ho! What have we here? So very round and smooth and sharp? To me 'tis mighty clear. This wonder of an elephant is very like a spear." The third approached the animal, and happening to take the squirming truck within his hands, thus boldly up and spake, "I see," quoth he, "the elephant is very like a snake." The fourth reached out an eager hand, and felt about the knee. "What most this wondrous beast is like is mighty plain," quoth he. "'Tis clear enough the elephant is very like a tree." The fifth, who chanced to touch the ear, said, "E'en the blindest man can tell what this resembles most. Deny the fact who can. This marvel of an elephant is very like a fan." The sixth no sooner had begun about the beast to grope, than, seizing on the swinging tail that fell within his scope, "I see," quoth he, "the elephant is very like a rope." And so these men of Indostan disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion, exceeding stiff and strong, though each was partly in the right, and all were in the wrong. The moral: so often theologic wars, the disputants, I ween, rail on in utter ignorance of what each other mean, and prate about an elephant not one of them has seen. The prophet Joseph Smith could see the same blind and narrow-minded weaknesses in the ministers and preachers of the different churches. I cannot believe in any of the creeds of the different denominations, because they all have some things in them I cannot subscribe to, though all of them have some truth. I want to come up into the presence of God, and learn all things, but the creeds set up stakes, and say, "Hitherto shalt thou come, and no further," which I cannot subscribe to. TPJS, page 327. Because all of them have error, they cannot be wholly acceptable to God. Anything incomplete and containing error is not sanctioned by God, as Joseph also said. By the foregoing testimonies, we may look at the Christian world and see the apostasy there has been from the apostolic platform, and who can look at this and not exclaim, in the language of Isaiah, "The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinances, and broken the everlasting covenant?" TPJS, page 15. How then can man know what religion is correct, or which doctrines are acceptable to God? If God is represented in so many different ways, where do we begin? Again, from the prophet Joseph Smith. The great majority of mankind do not comprehend anything, either that which is past, or that which is to come, as it respects their relationship to God. They do not know, neither do they understand the nature of that relationship, and consequently they know but little above the brute beast, or more than to eat, drink, and sleep. This is all man knows about God or his existence, unless it is given by the inspiration of the Almighty. ******. My first object is to find out the character of the only wise and true God, and what kind of a being he is, and if I am so fortunate as to be the man to comprehend God, and explain or convey the principles to your hearts, so that the Spirit seals them upon you, then let every man and woman henceforth sit in silence, put their hands on their mouths, and never lift their hands or voices, or say anything against the man of God or the servants of God again. But if I fail to do it, it becomes my duty to renounce all further pretensions to revelations and inspirations, or to be a prophet, and I should be like the rest of the world, a false teacher, be hailed as a friend, and no man would seek my life. TPJS, pages 343 to 344. Joseph Smith still throws out his challenge that he understands the nature and character of God. If true, everyone should acknowledge that God has revealed this information to our generation and be grateful for it. This, after all, should be the most important part of any religion, to learn who God really is and what kind of personage he is. But before believing Joseph Smith, it should be determined if he really was a prophet, a true or false prophet, and how to distinguish one from the other. If he was a true prophet, then what did he teach that was different from all the other preachers, teachers, and evangelists? If he was a false prophet, his message would probably be similar to all the other false teachers of religion. The following chapter presents guidelines to use in determining whether someone is a true or false prophet.